Hello, lords and ladies of the realm. It is I, Mighty Sophia, here to break down for you guys the latest episode of Game of Thrones. We are on Season 5, Episode 6, Unbowed, Unbent, and Unbroken, which is not at all how I feel at the moment. I just want to clarify, so spoiler alert before we dive into the mad thick of things, as I shall be bearing all in this review, and being that there are no other reviews that were posted at the time of me filming this, I'm going to do my very best to get all the details accurate, but if there's anything I miss, of course, please lovingly correct me in the comments below, and share knowledge with each other. And also, spoiler alerts, please, if you are inclined to speak of book events, even though the show is doing its own thing and is not necessarily going to adhere to the major points in the book, I think that I ran into some pretty huge intel for the future when I was just trying to gather people's thoughts about this episode, so, you know. You could argue I'm just crossing the minefield and taking my chances, but at the same time, hey, I didn't ask for that, you know, nobody does, so let's be cool with one another. At any rate, we have some serious tragedies to get into tonight. This was the episode where the good guys lost. Forever? Not necessarily, but in the moment, I am dealing with the sourest of sour tastes. Tastes, S-T, that is so hard to say. But, oh, just having to end where we did and what happened, and oh god, I mean, to break it down for you, I felt incredibly nauseous during that entire scene because I knew that nothing was going to be done on her behalf. I knew that Sansa was screwed and that there would be no intervention or salvation for her in that moment. That's just the way it goes, you know. I know a lot of people are probably expecting that Theon/Reek was going to step up and do something because all of his interactions with her seem to be building to some revelation on his part or some breach of the code that Ramsay has programmed in him, but this was not the time. And when you think about it, if Reek had done anything to attempt to retaliate, Ramsay might have killed them both. You know, it's hard to say what exactly Theon, I want to call him Theon. Now that I'm seeing him in the same context as Sansa, I've got to call him Theon. I don't want to perpetuate this Reek business that Ramsay's all about because I'm not all about the things that Ramsay is all about. So I'm going to differentiate myself as such. At any rate, so it's hard to say what exactly Theon was aware of in that moment, but we see the grief and the terror in his eyes, and I'm so glad that we didn't have to see anything, but hearing it was bad enough. I mean, I had my freaking fingernails clawed into my face, just resisting every moment of that, and unfortunately it's something that I could sense was coming, that I knew we were going to have to endure. I knew as soon as Peter Baelish was leaving and Sansa was telling him, I'll likely be married before you return, you know, I knew that everything was working its way towards this horrific sort of red wedding style event. Not red wedding in the sense that everybody dies, but in the sense of the innocence that is taken. And, you know, a major theme of this episode in particular, and this was something that was underscored by a couple of the showrunners, if you guys stick around and watch the behind the scenes stuff after the Game of Thrones episodes, they were talking about the theme of how marriage is politics by other means. So when you look at the rape in that sense, it is essentially the new North is forcing itself upon the old North, and in so doing conquering and subduing it. And I hate to say that, I hate to speak those words, but that is precisely what is going on here. And I'll be damned if we don't get some redemption for Sansa by the end of this season or series. I mean, whatever time frame we need to work in, can we please make that the end game for her character, because I can't deal with this. I mean, we have seen Sansa go from travesty to travesty over the course of this entire show, And it just breaks my heart to pieces that this was something that Peter was willing to put Sansa through in order to reach his own ends, which we get to see a much clearer picture of what it is that Baelish could be after. And while we shouldn't be surprised, it doesn't lessen the blow by any means. So here I am, a shell of a human being, like getting ready for tonight's episode. I hadn't really read any interviews or any material promotion-wise regarding this season, so I had no idea that this was coming except based on just inferences of the context and, so it happened, and I don't want to deal with it. And I was talking earlier before this episode aired about how delightful this season has been and, setting up all of these things, and then I forget, oh yeah, this show hurts too. Like that was something that I just conveniently tried to displace by focusing on other things. And yeah, there have been sad events that have occurred in the show, but of this caliber, we haven't had anything like this yet. And so now that we have crossed this point, I think that Sansa is really going to kick into high gear, or at least I hope so. Now, talking about what's going on with Sansa, we also have to address the agenda of Littlefinger, who is simultaneously playing everybody on the map here. He's got the veil wrapped around his little finger, naturally by way of marriage and those laws. He is paying lip service to Bolton. He claims to be going on the behalf of Stannis, who is coming to confront Lord Bolton, and they're gonna duke it out. But then he goes to King's Landing and confirms to Cersei that yes, his counsel has always been to serve the crown, and he shall not stop until there is a Lannister lion floating high above Winterfell. And what he tells her, revealing a part of his plan that had still been behind the veil, to us anyway, what he tells Queen Cersei, Queen Mother Cersei, she don't get that queenship, at any rate, tells her that he's just gonna sit back, watch him duke it out, and then have the Lannisters swoop right in, and he will pledge his support so long as he is declared Warden of the North. Now, this means a lot of things. There are quite many interesting implications of this. Please do discuss below, because, we know that Littlefinger has been a major power player in all of this, and while he has kind of operated in the background as the brothel owner and tries to pass himself off as merely that, we know that he's got the whole world in his hands. Not quite like Jesus, but maybe a slightly more messed up version. Not Jesus. But anyways, so I feel things at the moment. I don't know what I want anymore, but my mind keeps going back to that prophecy that Cersei got once upon a time, and I'm still keeping my eye on that Iron Throne and who the woman is who is going to be taking everything that Cersei holds dear. I'm still starting to see that as Daenerys, perchance. But there are some other options as well that we might be able to foresee, and perhaps other things that are looming just in the distance. But I keep thinking about that, mainly because I am so eager to see the Queen Mother go down in flames. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Queen of Dragons. But I don't know what this means. This is just my, like, woo, my little finger cheerleading moves. But anyway, so Cersei is getting exactly what she wants. Ramsay and Bolton are getting exactly what they want. Everything is suckish. Everything's the worst when the people you love get screwed. Everything is suckish. I'm really not in the mood for any more of this, so can we please have better things happen in the future? The end. That was my beautiful cover. Moving right along. So Cersei gets Sir Loras into his hearing. And then, of course, Margaery is called upon to give a testimony for Loras's innocence of homosexual relations. She confirms what Loras confirms, that everything is lies, and, well, that just doesn't hold up when one of Loras's bed buddies comes up, steps to the plate, and delivers a scathing review of the truth and confirms the birthmark high on Sir Loras's thigh, and things hit the fan. Cersei, of course, is pretending as if she doesn't want to acknowledge this testimony, and that, you know, why would we pay attention to this former squire, and I mean, she is working it. I mean, you look at her face and it just makes you want to punch something. Mainly her face. I'm just saying. I don't think it's going to satisfy me to lay my fist down on anything else but her smug-ass grin. That's the way that I feel. Rage. There's rage within me today. But, and at any rate, it's always darkest before the dawn. That's what they say. So I'm going to be clinging to that. Yeah. But she is able to not only get Sir Loras into the trial phase, as the evidence is sufficient to charge him with unlawful homosexual relations, but also takes Margaery down with him for her false testimony before the gods. So, bada boom, bada bing, they're getting thrown in the clink, and Tommen continues to sit there like his queen mother's puppet, staring blankly as his lightning hot wife is taken away to bars and chains. And what's he to do about it? Cause mom is sitting right there and she's getting her, I mean, the kid just looks shell-shocked. Like, he has no idea what's going on. No sense of his power or his ability to stand up on her behalf because of the power that has been granted to the High Sparrow in order to call all of these things. And essentially, he really is the puppet. He is just a marionette in Cersei's system, and good lord, can somebody please bring her down. I have to say that I was loving the sass fest that was unfolding between the long-missed Aelena Tyrell and Queen Mother. She, like her granddaughter Margaery, does a fine job of putting the Queen Mum in her place. Or at least they try. And you know, Aelena says something very important that I think all of us should consider as we see these rivalries unfold, is that sometimes we must work with our rivals rather than destroy them. But that is not Cersei's way, for now that everyone who had power before in House Lannister is deceased or out of the picture, she is taking it upon herself to ensure that she is untouchable, that she is on a pedestal of unmitigated power, and she is so determined to work against fate, which, I mean, I think is something that we see in the stories of a lot of characters. You know, they're told this is the way things are going to be, this is the way that you are, and then they strive to overcome that. You know, in different sort of buildings, romance stories, what have you. But this is just, oh, it is just so much foolishness and so much bad. And speaking of things that pertain to House Lannister, we finally see Jaime and Bronn making landfall upon the palace at Dorne, where there is a mini-war unfolding between Arya. Oh gosh, and once again, the name! This is only the third week in a row that I have so pathetically struggled with this, so I apologize. Arya, let's say. It's Arya versus her brother Doran. So Doran sees that Myrcella, the daughter of Cersei, who is to be wed to his son, he sees the danger that is at play here, and he's got his men ready to pounce at a moment's notice. Now, Jaime shows up, directly approaching Myrcella as she is trying to enjoy her young, delightful romance. A little Romeo and Juliet-ness going on here, although hopefully it doesn't take that trajectory. Let's not get too Shakespearean up in here, but Jaime approaches thinking that he is coming to save her from this prison, when in fact she's in a little bit of a paradise and has no idea what's going on around her. Her foremost concern is that, is this really love, or is it just, you know, this arrangement and blah, blah, blah. She's somewhat aware of the politics that are on the outside, but is so caught up in that infatuated little Katy Perry teenage dream going on. Not so much. That little bubble gets popped pretty dang quick as the sand snakes show up, unbowed, unbent, unbroken. Now, I saw some people kind of complaining about the way that the sand snakes scene went down and how all of that felt rushed. I mean, we've had a few somewhat rushed feeling battle sequences before, and I think really more of what the focus is the fact that this attempt at taking vengeance for the death of Oberyn is more or less stalled out, and pretty much everybody gets taken off to the clink. Myrcella's life is spared for the time being. And I mean, we got to see the ladies bust out a few moves, but it did move pretty quick, and it seemed a little bit anticlimactic compared to the things that I was hearing about the Sand Snakes, even from the books, so I'm gonna expect that there are other things to come, and this is really just the beginning, so Lord knows what awaits everybody in this picture, but thankfully Doran was quite preemptive in this matter, sparing a lot of lives, at least from what we can tell. But, like I said, tip of the iceberg scenario. There is a whole lot of chaos that's going to be in play very soon here. So now, let's switch over to another side of the world where Jorah and Tyrion are continuing their journey forward, with Tyrion continuing to complain about the lackluster companionship of Jorah, and then ultimately he kind of unintentionally ends up revealing to Jorah the death of his father, who was commander at the Night's Watch, and we see Jorah kind of grapple with that in his mind, but he doesn't really externalize very much, decides that they just need to keep moving forward, when all of a sudden along comes a band of slavers ready to make off with Jorah, sell him into some form of servitude, and take the cock of the dwarf for good luck purposes, or to turn a profit with the cock merchants. Didn't know that was a thing, but hey, medieval economies, man. Gotta sell what sells. And the way that Tyrion works his way away from that particular knife is quite hilarious. You know, he's not trying to say, like, I am Tyrion Lannister of the blah blah blah, because, well, he is wanted dead, so that wouldn't really, revealing his true identity isn't really going to help much, and what do these guys care anyway? You know, they've got their own agenda, and what's a title got to do with anything, especially if this guy is already wanted dead? And then one of the slavers tries to assert that, oh, well, like, the merchants are going to be able to tell if the schlong is from a dwarf because it's going to be a dwarf size, to which Tyrion says, So I think I'm picking up what he's putting down there. I think I get what's going on. I can pick up those innuendos. But so he tries to say that, you know, there's no way that the merchants are going to be able to know that this cock is indeed from a dwarf, and so what are you going to do? You know, it's not going to be legit unless you got me with it. So they decide to temporarily spare his life, and that turns into yet another fantastical story, which kind of mirrors the situation with Bronn and Jaime when they are trying to pass themselves off as survivors of a shipwreck when they get to Dorne. So Tyrion starts saying, like, well, hey, you know, you're with one of the best warriors in the land, my buddy Jorah. And Jorah picks up the baton and goes along with the story and seems to work his way out of slavery as well. So from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, but the slavers were talking about the fighting pits in Meereen, and so I think that are they going to try to get to Meereen by saying, like, Jorah can go fight in the pits, and then they're going to be there? And that's what I understood. Tell me if I'm wrong, though, but I think that's pretty badass that they were able to get that worked out anyway. And then, of course, Jorah's grayscale continues to remain in question. I have no idea how quickly that stuff spreads in adults. I don't know the pathogenesis of this business, but I really hope that he's got enough fight in him to, if he does make it to the pits, to hold his own and to have an audience with Daenerys that does not equal the death of Tyrion. And of course, Tyrion is very much correct to question the leadership skills of Daenerys and is basically trying to reveal his political prowess and political utility to Daenerys in his conversations with Jorah, I think. So Tyrion has quite a few tricks up his sleeve when it comes to sparing his little life, which has been threatened quite a few times. So the guy's got some wit and guile about him, and that is indeed going to take him far. It's gotten him around the world at this point. So, way to go, dude. At any rate, what are things that I'm forgetting? Oh yeah, so we spent a lot of time with Arya at the very top of the episode this week. And we're seeing the game of faces, I believe it's called, that she's playing with others in the House of Black and White is what it's called. I was thinking of the House of the Undying, but that's a little bit of a throwback. So we see that Arya is continuing to struggle with the idea of giving up her personhood, she is still very much attached to her identity and insists upon discovering the identity of one of the girls that she is working with and, you know, cleaning all the dead bodies with. Comes forth in this breakthrough moment of like, okay, I'm done with this. I don't know what's happening to these bodies or what the crap I'm doing in life and why is anything and what is everything and who are you anyway? And so the girl tells her the story of how she was also from nobility and then the story of how she was displaced by the father's second marriage and the birth of another child and how she was almost poisoned, and then in working with the people here, she was able to make his father a widower again. And then immediately afterward asks, did you believe all of that? I mean, imagine getting this just soul-spilling moment where you think you're getting to know somebody and then it's like, no. How much of that do you think was true? I mean, but that is the nature of the business around these parts. And we see Arya trying to learn the art of lying herself, and ultimately this translates into her getting to enter one of the inner sanctums of this place. It's sort of a giant wax museum of faces, except those are actual people's faces. And a very cool quote that we get as well is the fact that the girl is not ready to become no one, but she is ready to become someone else. So that's kind of cool, which I think describes very well the state of Arya at this point. So lots of mysteries enshrouding what the future is going to look like for her, but yeah, who knows? Maybe she could be of some aid to her sister in the future once she becomes a faceless woman. Who knows? I mean, the possibilities are endless at this point, but what we need is a little bit of justice in this cocktail of doom and despair. I mean, I'm gonna send that one back to the bartender unless we remedy the situation, okay? So that's, I think I was able to kind of touch on everything, but if there's any major glaring plot points that I missed, please fill me in. I'm still in pain on the inside and not feeling great, so I'm gonna go do something to try to feel better about my life, because just no. Sansa! Somebody gotta help this sister. Brienne, where's my girl at? You are sitting there on the hill, got a clean view of Winterfell. Somebody come and do something about this. Thank you. Or I'm gonna send myself in. I'm going to find my way into this universe and I'm gonna make things right. And I don't know how that's gonna go. So somebody be my advocate. Somebody stand up for Sansa, please. And we see in the preview for next week that she does know that she has friends in the North still. So I just wonder how all of this is going to play out for Baelish as well, as he is claiming to be very much on the outside of the struggle for the North and is in fact intending to use his alliance with the Lannisters at King's Landing in order to position him as the guy who comes out on top. He is indeed a betting man, perhaps not for Stannis, but always for himself. So, lots of interesting things afoot. I gotta end this video now, but thank you so much for watching, and as always, I will be back before you know it. Yes,